The Blackwell Asylum was built in 1892, hidden deep within the woods, a place where society discarded its unwanted. The patients' forgotten souls were left to rot in filth, abused, neglected, and starved. Nurses reported hearing screams from empty rooms, seeing figures standing in hallways with hollow black eyes. But the worst was Margaret Holloway. Margaret was a patient no one could control. The nurses found her talking to herself, laughing at things no one could see. She smeared blood on the walls, whispering, "They want out. Let them out." One night, the guards decided to teach her a lesson. They dragged her from her bed, beating her until she stopped moving. She didn't die. But something else woke up inside her. The next day, all 5 men were found in their beds, their bodies torn open from the inside, their rib cages split like broken cages. Their hearts were missing. Margaret was nowhere to be found. The asylum shut down the next day. For decades, the building stood empty, until 2023, when Mark and Lisa Holloway moved in. Mark and Lisa had just bought the asylum, planning to turn it into a hotel. Their 10-year-old daughter Sophie loved exploring the old rooms. That first night, Sophie came into her parents' bedroom shaking. "There's a woman in my room," she whispered. Lisa rubbed her eyes. "Honey, you were dreaming." Sophie shook her head. "She was standing in the corner. She has no eyes." Lisa tucked her back in, Iora the chill creeping up her spine. Then, from the darkness, she heard it. A wet, guttural whisper from inside the closet. "She's still here." The door creaked open on its own. Mark was working late that night when he heard something dragging across the floor above him. He assumed it was Sophie, until he realized Sophie was sleeping next to Lisa downstairs. Then a loud thud, then something heavy crawling across the ceiling. He looked up. A figure was pressed against the ceiling, its body twitching unnaturally, its mouth open in a silent scream. It dropped onto him. Mark felt cold hands grab his face. The fingers pushed into his mouth, deeper, deeper, down his throat. He gagged, choking on something wet and slimy. Lisa found him in the morning, his jaw dislocated, his tongue missing. He couldn't speak. He could only stare at the ceiling, shaking. Sophie kept whispering about Margaret. "She lives in the black room," she told Lisa. Lisa searched the asylum. There was no black room on any map, but in the basement, she found something. A door that wasn't supposed to be there. She pushed it open. Inside, the walls were covered in bloody handprints. Old, rusted chains hung from the ceiling. Bones littered the floor, and then something moved in the corner. Lisa raised her flashlight. Margaret was still there. Her body was rotting, her skin peeling away in wet chunks. Her fingers were too long, her mouth filled with jagged, broken teeth. Lisa tried to run, but Margaret was faster. The door slammed shut behind her. Something grabbed Lisa from behind. Then came the tearing. Her skin split open, peeling away in long wet strips. Fingers dug into her back, ripping her spine out. The last thing Lisa heard was her own scream coming from somewhere else, as if she were outside her body, watching it happen. Mark woke up to find Lisa sitting in bed. Her back was turned to him. "Honey?" he whispered. She didn't move. He reached out and Lisa turned her head completely backward. Her jaw hung open unnaturally, her mouth too wide, her teeth black and rotten. Then she lunged at him. A year later, a new family moved into the asylum. That night, their 6-year-old son woke up crying. "There's someone in my room," he whispered. His mother smiled. "It's just a bad dream." The boy pointed at the closet. "No," he said. "She's watching." The closet door slowly creaked open. Inside, something breathed, and then it stepped out. The asylum never lets them leave.